Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's live stream. My name is Joseph Hodge. I'm a senior tour consultant at Kaleidoscope Adventures. Now, the reason we're doing this, I don't know if you know this, but this week is National Travel and Tourism Week. And in honor of that, we're bringing you the live stream, which gives information on how to snag a travel scholarship. And we'll also be sharing terrific tips for planning a school trip. Now, before we dive into today's discussion, I want to invite you to follow us on social media. Kaleidoscope Adventures is on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're always putting out great, helpful content. So make sure you give us a follow. Also, if you have a question during our live stream, type it in the comment section and we'll do our best to answer it by the end of today's session. Now, one final thing I want to say before we get going. We've put together a really wonderful, complete resource called the Ultimate Guide to Planning a Student Trip. If you want your own copy of this guide, all you have to do is drop your email address in the comment section or shoot us a direct message, and we'd be happy to send this resource. It's very complete, very thorough. I'm sure it'll be helpful for people, no matter what their experience with travel is. You can also download it right from our website. Okay. So we know everybody's ready to rock and roll about travel scholarships, but we also know that planning a trip, and especially if you're doing trip planning for the first time, can be very overwhelming. So don't stress over it. We've got you covered. We're going to introduce you to some seasoned pros who will share some great advice on exactly what you need to know and to do to make your trip the best it can be. So to get us started, let's welcome a few people on screen. Stephen Moore, welcome to our broadcast today. Stephen is the Director of Bands for Lindale Independent School District in Lindale, Texas. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who's coming up next? Christine Picard. What a grand entrance. Christine is Director of Choral Activities at Old Lyme High School in Lyme, Connecticut. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Heidi Haderthauer, welcome. Director of Bands at New Milford High School in New Milford, New Jersey. Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. John Meehan. And John is the Director of Community Arts Programs for the Blue Devils Performing Arts. Now, if you don't know Blue Devils, it's one of the nation's and probably one of the world's strongest and most reputable drum and bugle corps. Thank you, John, for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's dive in. We want to create some content for people that works well for them, and I know that we can tap into your expertise and get going here. Stephen, let me direct the first question to you, please. If I'm a new teacher who's never planned a trip before, I'd love to probably have your pre-planning, early stages, the way you organize things and how you get started. Could you share some of that with us, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to. First thing I'd say is start early. I like to start having conversations a year out or more. Sometimes even up to a year and a half. Like even right now, next week I have a trip with my seniors going to Branson, and I'm about ready to roll out and make an announcement to the band about our trip next year. And so you want to get ahead of the ball game, start early. Another thing I would do early on in the process is go to your administration and get their approval on dates and destinations. You don't want to put something out and then have to say that we can't go because your administration said no, or that they found out after the fact and are upset that you didn't talk to them first. Administrators do not like surprises. And you might even want to talk to some of your trusted parents and booster organization leadership and get their opinion on the destination so you have their perspective and support. And then probably one of the most important things, get a tour company and a trip planner that you trust and who has done the trip before. There is no need to reinvent the wheel, especially if this is your first trip. get the details planned on what you want to do, how much it's going to cost, then communicate that in a clear and concise manner to your students and parents. And then never hesitate to contact your tour guide, your tour planners for help and questions and guidance.
So would you say it's safe to assume that the real kicker thing that gets things started is as soon as and maybe a little before this, but as soon as your school's calendar for the next school year comes out, that's
Yes.
a great time to jump on this, find
Yes.
out the dates, see what conflicts are out there, etc.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
and then contact the people with influence over the trip and the trip approval and whose support you need, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add on that particular, the early stages that they find is critical? No? Okay. That's great. Thank you. The similar to that, Christine, if you would please, we've seen some of our clients struggle at times with getting students and parents to support, be supportive of and stay invested in the concept of a trip. How do you get students and parents to buy in, essentially, literally and figuratively, emotionally, and really get behind a trip?
Well, first, to kind of dovetail on what Stephen was saying about setting up your trip, we actually talk to our students. We field a couple of different ideas and we get a gauge on what are they excited about, so that when we do start planning the trip, we know it's going to be something that the kids are interested in doing. Once we have decided where we're going to be traveling to and when the dates are, it's all approved. We roll out a whole PowerPoint presentation and invite parents in to see it so that we're showing them pictures of where we're going, showing a sample itinerary, and really getting everybody excited about the concept of the trip. Once the trip is off the ground and we start looking for students to send in deposits, we also embed all the musical aspects of the trip in our curriculum so that even if students aren't going on the trip, they're learning the music that we're using for competition, or they're learning the music that we're going to be performing, so that they're just surrounded with it all the time. It becomes the culture of that school year for our music department. Of course, communication is key. We hold at least 2 live in-person parent meetings, and now we do a couple of Zoom meetings to keep people in the loop, send out communications about deadlines, put information in our concert programs, and just really keep it at the forefront of everyone's mind that this is our focus for this school year. And that seems to really keep the kids engaged and get everybody excited about the trip.
Wow, that is very complete, and it is bringing that trip into the forefront throughout the year. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Just raise your hand if you do need to add something. Heidi, let's go round the robin here. Can you, early on, we need to think about the practicalities of things and inflation's going up and whatnot. And fundraising can be a big part of the success of a tour if we can, if a group can get that implemented and successful for them. What do you do? What have you done? What advice do you have for people about fundraising and choosing?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. So I'll try to be concise, but fundraising is such a big part of it, especially for where I teach. It's really important. I have students that might not be able to go if we don't do fundraising. So I've been doing fundraising for about 20 years, and some things we found that work really well for our program. You have to have patience and organization to find what works for your community. So if you're a new director, my 3 pieces of advice would be to first research your options, second, build community relationships, and then engaging the students and the parents. So for researching options, I mean to talk to administration about current fundraisers already being done in your school and in the district, because you don't want to step on toes of a fundraiser that's happening that's similar to the one you're thinking about. I always like to find fundraisers too that give the most output with the smallest amount of effort. I really like one-day fundraisers that kind of just get a good amount of funds in. We do 2 to 3 fundraisers that everyone in the community knows are ours, and they start to look forward to them. So now we've done a couple of these fundraisers 8 or 10 years, and they're asking, when are they going to be? We do use a company called Ashley Farms, which is regional to New Jersey, and it sells cheesecakes and things. The kids don't have to walk around with anything. Also, it's all online sales, and that brings in a good amount, and they look forward to it. And we always align it with a holiday. So you want to think about what's the product and can it line up with anything that you'll be doing. The other 2 that we've done that are really great, and you have to have that community involvement, is we do a mattress sale, which I know a lot of people it's confusing. There's a company, it's CFS, Custom Fundraising Solutions, that sets up our gym like a mattress showroom. And people come in and actually try out mattresses right in the gym. And that takes a lot of organization, but it's again a one-day event, and it brings big results. And a lot of people come to just see what it is. They're like, how is there a mattress fundraiser in a gym of a school? And that's good. And then the final one we've done that also has a lot of community input is ShopRite is our local grocery store, and they donate all the ingredients for us to make hoagie sales. So we pre-order hoagies. The kids walk around to the town and take orders, and then we all make the sandwiches together and then deliver them, and we line that up with the day before Super Bowl Sunday. And we make 100% profit because the local grocery store will donate to us. This year we made 850 sandwiches in about 3 hours, and then had to go deliver them, which is crazy. So it kind of goes back to, you have to have community involvement. Know what areas and what companies in your town will make donations, and then really get on social media. I'm big on Facebook and Instagram and all of that, so that you can get the word out. Because kind of like what was said before, you have to engage the students and the parents. Share with them always what your goal is, how much do you want to fundraise, and what is needed for you to fundraise and get the amount of money. And we've always been pretty good with our fundraising, but it takes time and patience to find what works for your community and your students the best.
I love the fact that the cheesecakes come back every year, and they're looking for them, right? And the timing makes sense around the holidays and such.
Yes.
Now, real quick, the mattress thing. A lot of us might not think of a big ticket item like that. How did you discover this? Did they approach you, or did you?
I've gone to the New Jersey State Convention many times, as many of us do for our own local areas. And they were there with a mattress one year. And I'm like, what is this? I thought it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. And they go, a lot of people come to it because it's weird. They're like, what? But supposedly a mattress is the last thing people realize they need. And they have a 15-year-old mattress. And they're like, yeah, I've not been really sleeping that well. And so we've just did our second one this past year, and more people came. And now we're going to be doing it every 2 years. And it seems to align with what people need. And it's just interesting.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other smart fundraisers out there that need to be mentioned? Okay. We've been focusing so far on the early planning, the fundraising, the early stages of a tour, but I want to talk about something that's important to us all and ask our panelists to do so as well. About their tour director, the Kaleidoscope Adventures tour director. This is a person, of course, that's with the group at the destination 24/7. And let's watch a quick video that explains the role of this Kaleidoscope tour director.
Hi, my name is Stephen Gross, and I'm a tour director for Kaleidoscope Adventures. My role as a tour director is to make sure that the group I'm working with gets to where they need to go on time and safely. All KA tour directors are CPR certified and knowledgeable about the destinations that they tour direct in. Kaleidoscope Adventures tour directors have great problem-solving skills, and we approach each trip with a positive attitude. We want to do our part to make sure you and your students travel beyond expectations.
So there's just a little snippet. That was in Orlando, but no matter where we go, of course, any destination needs a skilled tour director. especially in some of the larger cities. It can be very, very, very helpful. Now, John, if I can direct a question to you finally, what can you tell us about how important are tour directors on a student tour?
Yeah, thank you. Definitely a lot to talk about. And I know a lot of our panelists here probably could also add some great information. Kind of what I want to focus on is one of the great things about what I get to do is I get to travel and do a lot of clinics with different bands and band directors around the country. And one of the things I always hear is that when you want to be a band director, all you want to do is really teach, educate, get to know the students and be involved in the musical parts of their lives. But then when you become that band director, a lot of times you get stuck in some of the administrative tasks and the other things that come with being a band director and, basically an educator within public school systems. And you don't get that love of teaching as much sometimes because you're dealing with that other stuff. When we go on big trips like this, the tour director is that person that can handle those small questions, being able to check in with drivers, hotels, restaurants, attractions, performance venues, and basically take a lot of the weight off of the band director so that they can focus on the things that they want to focus on, the performances, getting things ready for anything that they're doing with the band, the music like Christine was talking about earlier. And I love the word that Christine used with culture. And the culture of your band and your program and what you've built throughout that. The tour director knows the culture of how to run that tour to make it go smoothly. Many of us watching this video right now might not think that there's people behind the scenes right now making sure that the right screens with the right people pop up at the right times and how to make sure all the little bylines are going on. Because if we were in charge of that, the ones actually running the program right now, it would probably not be as smooth as it is. And I think that's a great tie-in to what a tour director is they're there, but they're not there. And they allow you and the students to be able to do all the things that you need to do. I've been on several tours with a band director that handled it all. And sometimes you don't know what's missing by having a tour director until you actually have the tour director. And then all of a sudden, a lot of things fall into place and that pressure comes off of you. So I think those are some of the biggest things that I think have the benefit of having a tour director on there is it really allows you to be the band director and stay more in touch with your students.
It keeps you in your job description.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about how tour directors have helped you on your past trips go smoothly?
It wouldn't be a Zoom meeting if we didn't have a mute issue.
Yeah, exactly. Mute. Always fun.
But yeah, tour directors are just extremely important. And although as a sponsor, as a band director taking these kids on the trips, it's not about me. It is nice for us as sponsors to be able to relax and actually have a little bit of fun. And those tour directors allow that to happen because they take care of those details and things that they can take off your plate so you can focus on the kids, like John said, and actually have a little bit of fun on this trip that you've been working for so long, for so many years. Other things tour directors do, if we go from Texas to Florida to go to Disney or Universal, we'll spend 20 hours on the bus, go to a park, get back on a bus, go to the hotel to check in. The keys are ready. They're divided up into my chaperone group so my chaperones can give them out to my students. The rooms have been checked. I got a room list with all the room numbers on there so we can pull in, unload the buses, give the kids the keys and get them in the rooms. And another really big thing is they can deal with problems as come up. On the trip that I had last year to Florida, we had kind of a complicated ending to our trip where our seniors were staying and the rest of the band were coming back home. And I had a bus driver, the lead driver, wanted to change my plan that I had in place for getting everybody where they needed to go. And so the bus driver comes, talks to me about it. And I said, no, we're going to stick with the original plan. Well, the bus driver was being rather insistent and I was starting to get rather upset. Tour director's right there, stepped right in and said, Mr. Moore, I've got this. You go take care of the kids. And he started dealing with the bus driver. So I didn't get mad, say something I didn't want to say. And I can move on and get with the kids and have fun for the rest of the day. Everything worked out the way it needed to work out. But so many things that a tour director does that makes the trip so much easier.
That's a great example. Yeah, we don't think about things that pop up like that. often.
Can I piggyback off that really quick?
Yeah,
Joseph?
sure.
Yeah, like Stephen just said, even a Kaleidoscope tour from last year that was a very big event, like 150 students on the trip, plane flight cancellations that happened, and immediately the tour director was able to pivot and get those students onto buses, get them to where they needed to be in the right amount of time. But then they also repurposed the money that was saved on the flights to the buses and was able to enhance the tour in other ways without it just being kind of like, so then it actually ended up feeling like a positive experience, even though it was a negative thing that happened. And those are things that we might not be able to do as the educators, to be able to pivot that quickly and positively.
Mm-hmm. Great example from real life. Yeah. Thank you. Christine, tell us a little bit from your experience about the role of chaperones and how do they fit in and how do they help you on the trip instead of complicate things?
Well, we have an interesting situation here. Our administration has asked us for the past, I'd say 10 years to only bring other teachers as chaperones on our trips. We used to travel with parent volunteers, and we had a lot of issues where the parents decided that they wanted to bring their student group, which also included their child, on a little special side trip or let them sleep in or fill in the blank. And it got to be very cumbersome. By bringing teachers along, the teachers are held to the same school standard, and they understand that on a trip, we are there really to be a teacher in a situation that's away from the school. It's very helpful because we're trained as teachers to maintain those student relationships, to maintain confidentiality, to work together. We're there as a unit. We understand each other. The kids know the teachers, and they're not afraid to go to the teachers with issues. And it just has really gone very, very smoothly having the chaperones on a trip. This year, for the first time, we, as the band and choral directors, were chaperones ourselves on the trip, and I am doubly thankful for the chaperones in the past. Having doubled this year, which, you do what you have to, but chaperones really help a lot. We can be behind the scenes taking care of the next day's plans while the chaperones are checking the students into the rooms. That alone is worth having those people along on a trip. And since our other teachers, we absolutely trust them to do what's right, to keep the trip running smoothly, to keep all those kids safe and where they're supposed to be.
Makes total sense. Sense. Thank you very much. Let's pivot to a new subject, and that subject, of course, is our snagging a scholarship subject. Check out this quick video.
Travel is critical to understanding the world around us, and student travel is one of the best teaching tools available to educators. The Stellar Student Scholarship is a partial or full travel scholarship awarded to a qualified student. Students are eligible for a Stellar Student Scholarship based on a simple criteria. For more information, visit kaleidoscopeadventures.com/stellar-student-scholarship.
So that Stellar Student Scholarship, just to piggyback that, is what is offered from Kaleidoscope Adventures. That's something that we created to offer as many of those scholarships as possible to as many students as possible each year. And it fluctuates from year to year, depending on many different conditions and things. But applications for this particular scholarship should be submitted by a student, but it also needs to include a letter of recommendation from their group leader, a teacher, or an administrator. And you've got the address there at the bottom of the screen, or the window there to learn more about it. There are some deadlines depending on the travel dates of your tour and that kind of thing. But that's number one that comes with our services at Kaleidoscope Adventures. But in addition to that, we recommend a couple other scholarships that are sponsored by the Student Youth Foundation. That is part of the CITA, Student Youth Travel Association, the CITA people. And there are two different scholarships. The first one that's been around a little longer, I think, is the Ripley Hunter World is a Classroom essay contest. And this was established to provide high school students the opportunity to share their personal story of how travel has impacted their lives. Excuse me. So they need to call upon their memories and the significant things that they've learned in the past from another tour or something they've done with their family or whatever it might be. And these students write an essay describing what they've learned and how they were impacted. And they can win a scholarship or be awarded a scholarship of up to $1,500. And then the 4 runners up in that process for this particular Ripley Hunter World is a Classroom essay contest. The 4 runners up will each receive a $1,000 award. So it's substantial. Now, the second one with Student Youth Foundation is the Rhodes Scholarship. It's very similar. It was established in 2002, so it's been around a long time. And it awards youth who are unable to afford the cost of the student group that they're trying to participate in. And the scholarships are awarded to nominees by the Board of Trustees at Cited Youth Foundation after reviewing applications that are submitted by educators, program leaders, or other school officials. So, that criteria can be found at the address again below. But good resources, good discussion on fundraising, good helpful tips.
Can I talk about scholarships really quick?
Oh,
Joseph?
yes, please do.
Yeah, something that I just wanted to kind of throw out there is that sometimes we just announce these scholarships to the students, or we make them available like in a newsletter or something like that. But sometimes there's going to be students, like Heidi was saying earlier, that without fundraising, a lot of the students may not be able to go on these trips. And it's not because they don't want to, or there isn't a desire there. There just isn't the means sometimes. And so it might be behoove us as directors to approach some of those students that we know might benefit from some of these things and go directly to them instead of assuming that they'll come to us, because sometimes students might be embarrassed that they need to apply for a scholarship or have help and assistance from somebody else. So if we go out of our way sometimes and approach some of those students, I think this could really benefit you and help, and not make it be about that they can't afford the trip, but it could help them and assist them, and you think that they're perfect for this. It might really help some of those students that otherwise couldn't go on our trips.
That's a really good point. You're right. We send a lot of information out. We provide it, but some need a little nudge and to take it to the next step. Yeah.
If I could add to that too.
Please.
I've had at least one student get the Stellar Student one. And in my situation that year, I had 3 sets of twins in my band.
Wow.
And when they're seniors and they're looking at college for all of them, even though they might not have as a need for it necessarily, it was at one point between which kid goes on the trip. And they did also fit the other criteria. And so I presented the information, said, you really need to fill this out. And they fit the criteria, and then it helped. Now both kids could go. So it's always good to look at that element too. How many other kids in the family are trying to go on the same trip?
Yeah, good point. Great. Thank you.
Joseph, if I could pivot back to chaperones for just a second.
Absolutely.
We still use parent volunteers. And one of the things that I've been doing for years is I handpick all my chaperones. I do allow a sign up, because it seems like on trip years, when you get to the talking about the big trip and that kind of thing, the volunteers come out of the woodwork, but they're not there working in the concession stand on Friday night. They're not on the bus chaperoning football games or festivals or events. They're not there around the kids all the time. And so I will let them sign up for a volunteer, but I go and I handpick my chaperones. It's not by chance. It's the people those parents that have been around my kids, that know the kids, not just their own kid, but know all those kids. And they know how I like to operate on trips. And then one thing I always do, that's not necessarily a chaperone, but I always have a designated nurse. And typically it's 1 or 2 of the school district's nurses. We will actually comp their trip, and they're with us, and they are there to handle any emergencies that we have that come up, and really give us great professional advice about if a kid needs to go to the hospital or go to the doctor or whatever. And that actually came in real handy last year. We marched in the Disney parade, 3:00 in the afternoon in the Magic Kingdom. We had a kid fall out and we had to take him to the emergency room, and it was nice having that nurse there on hand to really help make some calls. So
Right. You got that professional advice, and takes the heat off of you to try and figure out what's reasonable or what's not reasonable. Yeah. Very good.
I also am allowed to take parents. I handpick them a little bit, but I try to get in a lot of involvement. But our district too, you always want to make sure you know what the protocol is for bringing parents. My school just changed recently that they have to be board approved, fingerprinted, and everything. And you want to make sure that you leave enough time if that's what it's needed. Because it did take my parent chaperones 3 to 4 months to get the fingerprinting done and approved and everything. So to make sure you know what your district policy is for chaperones.
And that might be something you kind of wait to think about later in the process. So that's really good to know. 3 to 4 months for some cycles on that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, excellent. Anything else? Okay. I think, everybody today, Stephen, Christine, Heidi, John, this has been really valuable information. I hope we can do something like this in the future again. I want to thank everybody out there watching this live stream as well. Make sure to follow Kaleidoscope Adventures on social media, and don't forget to visit our website, of course, mykatrip.com, mykatrip.com. Now, you can request a quote through there. You can read the blog. We have so much wonderful content on our blog. Very helpful, useful. You can discover new destinations and where we're going, look at some packages and sample itineraries and much more. Thanks again for watching, and we can't wait to help your group travel beyond expectations. Thank you, everyone.